Glass City 419 is sitting down with our featured tattoo artist, Bradley Charles Atherton II. How did you get into tattooing, and how long have you been doing it?
I've been tattooing for 2.5 years now, so it's not a long time. And then as far as like getting into it, it was kind of just a fluke. Like, I had a friend of mine commissioned me to draw, design his chest piece, and he had monk tattooed on him, and then that was kind of like my foot in the door. So I jumped on that opportunity.
So you don't come from an art background?
Not like a traditional like educational background. No, I'm just kind of a spaz, and I kind of obsessive compulsive, and I just taught myself really more than anything.
So do you have a style, or how do you describe it?
I mean, my personal stuff, like like this stuff is more sort of surreal, but like I kind of have a penchant for like the illustrative realism that I've been doing a lot lately. As far as tattooing goes, though, I do whatever people request of me. I don't really have a particular style that I stick to.
You mentioned earlier they give you just free reign. Do they tell you an idea, or they just like what they've already seen and let you go out on your own? Or
yeah, I mean it's a little bit of both, like, cause obviously I've gotten to do some of this personal stuff. Like I tattooed this one on a guy. I've had requests for this one specifically, but instead of doing it just as is, I'll do something that's relating to it or similar in style or aesthetics. Yeah, I mean, like, with a lot of the custom work, people will have like a basic idea. They'll have like, I want a pretty girl with a spider in her hair, and I'll kind of just like do my thing and run with it and add whatever details I feel are necessary compositionally, like lights and darks and the overall structure of the tattoo to fit where they want it.
With this one that you have, that you were just saying, if you get people have a request for it, you ever thought about making it into a series, something that you document?
Yeah.
If you, kind of like a story in the flesh.
That would be, yeah, I've definitely thought about that. I mean, that would be phenomenal to be able to like convey a story like with this sort of imagery on like human canvases. So like to me, they're all linked a little bit. Like the one that I did a half sleeve on a kid that's like these sort of flowers with the amber orbs in them, and there's like this weird hummingbird bug thing that's like, with its little beak like protruding into the amber, like sucking it out, and like to me, like it's all related, but I never really just directly like say that, like I don't. Yeah. It's all kind of like below the surface for me. Yeah. So.
Do these have titles?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this one in particular we're talking about right now.
This is called Transcending the Amber.
And so where did that inspiration come from?
This one was inspired by a manic-induced sort of visual hallucination that I had. I've practiced meditation and lucid dreaming for as long as I can remember, since I was a child. I've always had really vivid dreams, and I laid awake in the dark for 3-4 hours one night with a white noise machine on, and just sat, and just tried for a long time to sleep, and it just kind of like it all culminated in me like experiencing this sense of sleep paralysis where I was like wide awake, and the visual hallucination that inspired it was like like a flower had bloomed open, and inside the flower there was like an orb of amber, and there was a man cradled inside of it, and another flower bloomed next to him, and there was a female, and the petals wilted and the flowers descended to the earth. The amber started to recede into the cracks and crevices, and they touched hands, and when they touched hands, the amber like pulled up again and then burst, and there was like a flower that came from that, and there was a fetus inside of it, and then that's what the inspiration for this tattoo came from. So again, it all kind of ties back in together to similar images and like that stuff below the surface, like all that story stuff that like kind of pervades everything I do.
So tattooing, marker work, is there any other mediums that you like to work with? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not picky. I've messed around with painting a little bit. A friend of mine and I are working on a comic. I'd like to do more of that. Comic works, illustrations, storytelling in general. And again, it all kind of ties back and forth to the similar images and ideas and things.
Are there any artists here in town that have influenced you?
Oh, in town locally, yeah. Obviously, Brian Monk Taylor. He's my mentor. He's the one that taught me tattooing, took me under his wing, and then of course like Tony Touch, Dominic Cooper, and Sailor Woody, and Drew Foster. Pretty much everyone at the shop that I work at that has taught me something in one way or another, whether it was like a specific tattooing technique or even just like little things, just life advice and just everything. It's so definitely the people I work with have been a huge influence on me.
That's great, man. When you see a lot of these TV shows that cater to tattoo artists, but it's done in a contest type of fashion,
melodramatic. And,
yeah. Does that ever like kind of sting you at the end of the day, knowing that you're getting quality information from these guys, and then you see these other cats on TV and they're like just being doled, I don't want to say bullshit, but it's, at the end of the day, some of it is just for
it's hyped up. It's dramatized. I mean, that's the thing with reality TV is that it isn't at all reality. Like you go into a tattoo shop, like go into Infinite Art, and there's never like instances where everyone's like screaming at each other and fighting over petty bullshit. Like everyone's just kind of doing their thing and trying to make the best art that they can. Yeah. So it's like that stuff is obviously hyped up, to make money.
Yeah.
How do you feel about tattoo parlors or shops in the 419? Are they supportive of each other? Is it a cool community? How would you describe it?
I think there's a mix of that, especially with like some of the shops that have existed for a while. Like, Infinite Art's been around for 20 years, and I feel like the way that some other shops view us kind of negatively because like, we're like the biggest shop, we're the most like well known, I guess, had the the best reputation. Yeah. But there are a lot of like younger tattooers now that are coming into the scene that are working at other shops that like network with me well, and they're all about like being like a community and actually like working together on projects they want. So like I said, it's kind of a mix. It just depends on who you're talking to, but like there's definitely a lot of people who want that, like at our shop and at other shops that like who want to be a community, who want to work together, and like instead of like constantly like fuck that guy. Like,
it's not necessarily competition. I mean, I think every artist brings their own element, and people go to them for their style. And you definitely have your own style. I think Toledo, it's a good. There's so many good shops in town, and just the right people talking. We can get rid of that, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we're talking local spots. Are there any local spots in the 419 that you like to visit? Food, bars, stores, anything like that you can mention?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably one of my favorite places to eat is Balance, and I'm probably gonna get shit for that, I'm sure. But yeah, I like the food there. It's tasty. I usually for supplies I go to Art Supply Depot if I can make it out. If not, like Michael's is just on the street from my shop, so it's like.
Convenience, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes convenience kind of takes priority. I like, the attic's a cool place to hang out, but I'm kind of reclusive, so I spend a lot of time in my little bubble, kind of like shut away from everything.
Yeah,
so
it's a perfection of craft.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
So it's not bad at all. I do want to ask you about your color composition, like what you're seeing here on the wall. Like how well have you been able to translate that into your pieces on skin?
I feel like I feel like I can translate it like relatively well. A lot of the times because of with like the markers that I'm using, like the colors are already set out for me. I don't have to mix or anything. I don't have to understand a lot about like color mixing and color theory in that regard. And of course, like with the tattoo inks, you can get almost any color you want now through all of the different suppliers. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy to match up the tones that I'm trying to get. But then of course, like it's a different medium. Everyone's skin type's different. Like if somebody's more olive toned, it's gonna change the way the colors sit in their skin. Mm-hmm. So that can affect it too. So there's a lot of different variables.
Can you talk about each piece real quick and mention the title? And because I know you said you have prints available, just so our viewers could see or hear each title and what how you came up with them or drew your inspiration or what they mean to you, or fill us in a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I mean, like right here we've got these three up top are like a set to me. They're like visual hallucinations, like manic-induced hallucinations. So like this one's Strata Rising, and to me it's like a visualization of like a increasing point of focus or pressure, like an energy. visualized as a waveform kind of emanating from an imperceptible globule. So it's like kind of like, to me in my mind, it's like spinning and like kind of pulsing up. So that one's like kind of just like sort of like the way that I'm like kind of trying to link art and like quantum physics. And this one's called Transcending the Amber, and it's again, you know, with the hallucinations, it's a guy trapped inside of an orb of amber. And to me, it's like these fungal plants are like an extra dimensional like proto-neuron that perceives, you know, different cosmic radiation. So they kind of like, they're almost like pseudo-conscious, like the way that they can collect sensory information. And then this guy is Swedish fish, and there isn't really a whole lot of like symbolism that I can say about this one. So I really like Swedish fish. They're delicious. So that one's just kind of more whimsical than any of the other pieces, really. And then these three pieces are a little bit different. These are more like visual poems to me. I kind of, the process is the opposite of these, whereas like these top three, I get an idea, I get like a hallucination, a vision for it, and I have to get it out as soon as possible. I drop everything that I'm doing, any other side projects I'm working on, I draw it to completion. Whereas these, like, I'll sketch them out at first on, you know, tracing paper and kind of meditate on the idea. It'll usually be just kind of a vague, like a visual, and I'll elaborate on it, start building up the contrast and figuring out the overall composition. And as I'm doing that, I think about the symbolism and what it all means. Like this one's called prosthesis, and it's, you know, you've got like a wooden hand and a mechanical bird and plasticine flowers, and it's the way that we kind of like try to recreate the things that we find in nature out of like material that we think is going to last longer, and it cheapens its value. So you've got like a wooden hand that's actually plastic. If you look down here, it's translucent, and so that one's kind of like, what do I want to say? Just so, like I said, the way that we cheapen the things that we find in the world.
I think that's the best description.
Yeah.
To give it, because that's true.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that fall into that category nowadays. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even with the digital media, like replacing all the physical media.
Yeah.
Cheapening it into digital form, so it's infinitely reproducible, and so it's like just kind of. And then, you know, if you think about it too, like it's not really. It's, what is that French artist? This is not a pipe. Like.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
What's his name?
Yeah. Like, so, you know, it's even though this is like a mechanical bird and a wooden hand, it's actually just an illustration on paper, and it's not even the physical thing either. So it's kind of ironic. And then this one's Bird Spotter, and it's, you know, you got the cameo here that kind of represents my draw towards like sort of antiquated aesthetics, just like old jewelry and Baroque filigree, and, you know, things that are like that. Like I like the Victorian sort of like aesthetics. You've got like the peonies that are none of them are in fully bloom, so they're all in progress. They're just bulbs that are all kind of like still growing. And then you've got the bird here, which is a finch, and, you know, Darwin observed the finches, and that's how he came up with this theory of evolution. And that's, you know, you've got the lady here in the cameo with like the binoculars, like, this, you know, it's called Bird Spotter, so she's spotting that bird, and that's kind of how art is to me. Like, I'm always waiting for that finch. I'm waiting for that bird that I haven't seen yet, that's going to fly along and like inspire me, and I'm going to come up with the great idea, the best idea I've come up with yet. And it's all, art is always in progress. That's what that one kind of represents for me. And then this one's Organ Grinder, and it's, you know, one of the tricks they used to do to train the monkeys that would dance to the organ grinders is they'd get them addicted to nicotine. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously if they control that substance for you, and you train the monkey to dance, and you play the music, and he dances with the cup and collects coins from passersby, and the cup has a hole in the bottom, the coins always fall through. The monkey never gets that reward. He never gets any of the, you know, the currency. He just gets his nicotine fix. He kind of, and then of course he's cranking his own organ there, and that's kind of how I feel about like the modern lifestyle anymore. Is like, you know, we all get to pick our own poison, and we crank our own organs, and we dance along for nothing, like, you know, just to feed our addictions.
You need to plaster that everywhere.
Yeah.
Put that everywhere, man.
I feel you.
A new wake up call for for America.
I wish.
Before we finish, are there any tips for any aspiring tattoo artists?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the best bet is to find a shop, to find somebody who can teach you, you know, the medium. You know, you don't want to start doing it out of your home. The risk for that, you know, for infection or for hurting people and damaging somebody's skin. That's probably the most important thing is finding somebody at a legitimate shop that can teach you that, like, that you can relate to. Somebody that, like, you can, you know, the passion's there. You can tell, like, they appreciate what you do. That's kind of like, that was the most important thing to me. That's why I went to Infinite Art above any other shop.
I really appreciate you taking your time and coming out, showing us your work. I know you definitely have 2 fans here. It blows my mind. You know, I have art background and still just the way you can communicate it and get it on paper and then translate that to skin. It's incredible to me. Yeah. But I just want to thank you again. I'm excited to get your feature out for everybody to check out.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man.
Oh, yeah.